Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Ready when you are.
Awesome. Today, we're looking at Mobikwik's upcoming IPO.
Interesting one for sure.
We've got their draft red herring prospectus, of course.
The essential source.
Definitely. And we're also looking at a report from Ritzir.
The strategy consulting firm.
That's the one. So we're going to try to piece this all together, give you the info you need to really understand this IPO.
Beyond just the headlines.
Exactly. So Mobikwik, they're aiming to raise, wait for it, $5,720.000 million.
That's a big number.
It is. Big ambitions, clearly.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, what exactly are they planning?
Exactly. And that's what we're here to figure out. Now, I think most people, when they think of Mobikwik,
They think digital wallet.
right, quick payments, recharges, that kind of thing.
Super convenient.
Totally.
Agree.
But they're not just a digital wallet anymore.
Nope. They've definitely branched out.
They have. They're trying to become more of a full-fledged financial services platform.
A one-stop shop.
Yeah, exactly. And get this. They claim to have nearly 140 million registered users.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's up there with the big players.
Right. I mean, that puts them in the same league as Paytm and PhonePe.
Yeah, in terms of user base at least.
So 140 million users, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what exactly are these financial services they're offering beyond the digital wallet?
Well, one area that's been getting a lot of attention is their buy now, pay later service. BNPL for short.
BNPL. Yeah, that's a hot trend right now.
It is, especially with younger consumers.
Definitely.
And their main products there are Mobikwik, ZIP, and ZIP EMI.
So basically letting people buy things now and then pay for them later in installments.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So BNPL is one piece of the puzzle. What else are they doing?
Well, they're also pushing into some more traditional financial services.
Okay.
Things like distributing mutual funds and digital gold.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they even have some tools for tracking your Provident Fund.
So trying to create that one-stop shop you mentioned earlier. Okay, so they've got some interesting stuff going on. They're ambitious, but we need to look at the numbers, right? As with any investment.
Absolutely. The numbers tell a story.
So what story are Mobikwik's financials telling?
Well, their revenue from operations has been growing pretty impressively. In fiscal 2023, it was $2,850.21 million. And then in fiscal 2024, it jumped to $5,578.82 million.
Wait, so they almost doubled their revenue in a year?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant increase, 95.73% to be precise.
Wow. What's driving that kind of growth?
Well, it looks like their strategic push towards financial services is paying off, especially those BNPL products, Mobikwik ZIP and ZIP EMI.
So that's their real growth engine.
It seems that way.
Okay, revenue's great, but are they actually profitable?
Ah, the million-dollar question. They have been operating at a loss.
Which I guess isn't all that uncommon for a fintech company in a growth phase.
Right. But here's something interesting. They've been really focused on keeping their fixed costs low.
Okay. How so?
Well, for example, their employee cost-to-revenue ratio is surprisingly low.
So they're running a lean operation.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Could that be a good sign for their path to profitability?
It could be. It means they're being careful with their spending and prioritizing efficient growth.
Right, right. Still, to really understand their profitability strategy, we'd need to dig a bit deeper. But let's zoom out for a second. Big picture. What's the competitive landscape like for Mobikwik?
Well, the digital payments industry in India, it's booming.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Projections show that digital transactions could reach, get this, USD 60 to 70 trillion by fiscal 2028.
That's insane.
It is. It's a massive market, and it's growing fast.
So huge potential, but
fierce competition.
exactly.
Yeah.
So who are the main players Mobikwik is up against?
Well, the two big names are Paytm and PhonePe.
Right, those are the ones you always hear about.
Yeah, they're both well-established, huge market presence, wide range of services.
Yeah, tough competition. So how does Mobikwik plan to stand out?
That's the key question. They're going to have to be innovative, offer something unique. They can't just follow the leaders.
Right. So let's talk about this IPO specifically.
Sure. So the pricing will be determined through a book building process.
Okay. So the price isn't set yet.
Right. It depends on investor demand.
Got it. What about the valuation? What are we looking at?
Well, the IPO is expected to value Mobikwik at RO.
And how much are they actually hoping to raise?
They're offering up to equity shares, aiming to raise up to $5,720.00 million.
Okay, so that's the issue size. Anything else interesting about the IPO details?
Well, They've decided not to go for an offer for sale.
An OFS. Remind me what that is.
So an OFS is when existing investors sell their shares as part of the IPO.
Right, right.
But Mobikwik isn't doing that, which could signal confidence in the company's future.
Interesting. Like they're saying, we're holding onto our shares because we believe in where Mobikwik is going. Okay, so they've got the money. They're in a competitive market, big ambitions. What's the plan for using this cash to grow the business?
Well, their growth strategy seems to focus on three main areas.
Hit me.
First, growing their user base.
Makes sense. More users, more revenue.
Exactly. They already have a lot of users, but they want to attract millions more.
Ambitious. How are they planning to do that?
Through marketing, of course, but also by enhancing their products and forming strategic partnerships.
Okay, so user growth is one pillar. What's next?
New initiatives. They're actively developing new products and services.
In what areas?
Payments, credit, wealth management, even insurance.
Wow, they're really trying to cover all the bases.
They are. They're trying to become a comprehensive financial services provider.
Interesting. Okay, so user growth, new initiatives. What's the third pillar?
Strategic partnerships. They're realizing that they can't do it all alone. They need to collaborate with other players.
Yeah, partnerships can be powerful.
Definitely. They're looking at partnering with banks, financial institutions, retailers, online platforms, even government agencies.
So leveraging existing infrastructure, expertise, customer bases.
Exactly. It's all about creating a more integrated and expansive financial ecosystem.
Smart. So they've got the money, the ambition, and the strategy. But there are always risks, right?
Of course. No investment is without risk.
So what are the potential red flags investors should be aware of when it comes to Mobikwik?
Well, the regulatory landscape in fintech is constantly changing. New regulations could impact their business model.
Yeah, that's a risk with any fintech company.
For sure. And then there's the competition.
Right. PTM, phone peep.
Exactly. It's a tough market, and they need to be able to stay ahead.
And are they profitable?
That's another key risk. They're working on it, but they haven't achieved sustained profitability yet.
So those are some things to consider. Before we jump to the final takeaway, though, tell me about the people behind Mobikwik. Who's running the show?
The founders are Bipin Preet Singh and Upasana Rupkrishan Thakur, husband and wife team.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they have a lot of experience in the industry. They've taken Mobikwik from a simple digital wallet to what it is today.
Impressive. What happens to their roles after the IPO?
Well, they'll continue to hold a significant shareholding in the company, so they'll still be very much involved.
That's good. Shows commitment.
Definitely. And it's worth noting that they've attracted some big-name investors: Sequoia, Trayline, Amex, Cisco.
Wow, impressive. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Their business model, the financials, the competitive landscape, the IPO details, the risks.
We've only just scratched the surface.
True. But we've given you, our astute listener, a lot to think about.
A foundation to build on.
Exactly. Now it's up to you to do your own research, make your own assessment, and decide if Mobikwik is the right investment for you.
That's right. We've given you the information. Now it's up to you to decide what it all means.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
So we've talked about all these external factors, right? The market, the competition.
The big picture stuff.
Right. But we also need to peek under the hood. See what's going on inside Mobikwik, how they operate, what potential risks might be lurking.
Okay, so what kind of risks are we talking about here?
Well, their draft red herring prospectus, it actually highlights regulatory challenges as a major concern.
Makes sense. Fintech is a heavily regulated industry.
It is. And India's fintech landscape, it's constantly evolving. New guidelines, new regulations. It's a moving target.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how is Mobikwik dealing with all that?
Well, they do mention in the prospectus that they've been taking steps to comply with these regulations, which is good, but it's definitely something investors should keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Because any missteps, they could face penalties, you know.
Right. Damage to their reputation.
Exactly. And they specifically mention the RBI's digital lending guidelines as a potential concern.
Those are? What are those exactly?
Well, they're basically the RBI's attempt to tighten its grip on digital lending. You know, make sure it's all happening responsibly, protect consumers.
So things like data privacy, security.
Yeah, all of that. Loan disbursement processes, recovery processes.
So a lot for Mobikwik to think about.
A lot to get right.
Right, because if they don't...
it could really impact their business, especially those lending operations.
So yeah, regulatory compliance, big one.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What other internal risks are they facing?
Well, security is a big one.
Cybersecurity.
Yep. Fraudulent transactions, cyber attacks, data breaches, these are all risks they acknowledge in their prospectus.
I mean, that's the case for any company these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the digital space.
True, but for a fintech company, the stakes are even higher. I mean, we're talking about people's money, their financial data.
Right. So how is Mobikwik addressing these security risks?
Well, they say they've implemented various security measures, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, system audits, the standard stuff.
Hopefully it's enough.
Yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it? Because the threats are constantly evolving. They need to stay ahead of the curve, constantly investing in their security systems.
Because any vulnerability could be exploited.
Exactly. And the consequences could be disastrous. Reputational damage, financial losses.
So security,
Yeah.
regulatory compliance. Anything else investors should be thinking about when it comes to Mobikwik's internal workings?
Their focus on low fixed costs.
We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Right. Low employee cost to revenue ratio and so on. They really emphasize this in the prospectus.
Which, again, could be a good thing for profitability.
Yeah, potentially. But it's a balancing act,
How so?
Well, they can't just cut costs everywhere. They also need to invest in technology, in product development, in attracting top talent.
Right. They need to spend money to make money.
Exactly. So investors need to really think about whether Mobikwik's approach to cost management is sustainable.
Are they being smart about it? Or are they cutting corners?
That's the question.
Okay, so we've talked about risks, but let's shift gears a bit. What about their plans for the future?
Their growth strategy.
Yeah, where are they going and how do they plan to get there?
Well, their prospectus outlines 3 key pillars: user growth, new initiatives, and strategic partnerships.
Okay, makes sense. So let's start with user growth.
Sure. They're starting from a pretty strong position. I mean, they already have almost 140 million users.
That's a lot, but they want more.
They do. They've set some pretty ambitious targets.
Okay, so how are they planning to get all these new users?
Combination of things, really. Marketing campaigns, product enhancements, strategic partnerships.
So marketing, I get. Got to get the word out. But what kind of product enhancements are they talking about?
Well, they want to improve their existing wallet functionality, add new features, make it even more convenient.
Like what? What kind of features?
Things like bill splitting, expense tracking, personalized financial insights.
Okay, so making it more useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more engaging.
Okay, so new features, marketing. What about partnerships? How are those going to help with user growth?
Well, by partnering with other companies, they can tap into new customer bases.
Ah, I see.
For example, they've already partnered with a bunch of banks to offer co-branded credit cards.
Smart.
Yeah, it's a way to reach a whole new audience.
So user growth is one pillar. What about these new initiatives? What are they cooking up?
Well, they've got a bunch of new products and services in development.
In what areas?
Payments, credit, wealth management, even insurance.
Wow, they're not messing around.
Nope. They're aiming to become a comprehensive financial services provider.
So like a one-stop shop for all your financial needs.
Exactly.
Ambitious. Give me some specifics. What kind of products are we talking about?
Well, in payments, they're looking at things like peer-to-peer transfers, micropayments, even cross-border transactions.
So basically trying to make payments even easier and more accessible.
Exactly. And in credit, well, they're not just sticking with BNPL. They're looking at personal loans, small business loans, even microloans.
So expanding their credit offerings to reach a wider range of customers.
Exactly. And then wealth management, they're thinking about offering things like mutual funds, digital gold, maybe even fractional shares.
Helping people grow their wealth.
Yeah, that's the idea. And insurance. Well, they're talking about offering things like health insurance, life insurance, travel insurance.
So basically, if it's financial, they want to offer it.
That seems to be the goal.
It's a lot to take on.
It is, and it remains to be seen if they can actually pull it off, make it all work, make it profitable.
Right, because a good idea is only as good as its execution.
Exactly. And that brings us to their third pillar, strategic partnerships.
Partnerships, we touched on that a bit earlier, but why are they so important?
Well, in today's world, companies can't afford to operate in silos. They need to collaborate.
Makes sense. So what kind of partnerships are we talking about here?
Well, they're looking at all sorts of partnerships with banks, financial institutions, retailers, online platforms, even government agencies.
So, what would that look like in practice?
Well, like I said, they're already partnering with banks to offer co-branded credit cards. They're also working with retailers to offer BNPL options at the point of sale, and they're integrating with online platforms to make payments smoother.
So lots of different ways to leverage partnerships.
Yeah. It's all about expanding their reach, enhancing their offerings, tapping into new markets.
Creating that ecosystem we talked about.
Exactly. But of course, partnerships come with their own challenges. Mobikwik needs to choose the right partners, align their goals, make sure it's mutually beneficial.
Because a bad partnership can do more harm than good.
Exactly. So there you have it. There are 3 pillars for growth: user acquisition, new initiatives, and strategic partnerships. It's a pretty ambitious plan.
It is. But is it realistic? Can they actually pull it off?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, we can at least think about it, analyze it. And that's what we're here to do. So what factors are going to determine whether Mobikwik's ambitions become reality or stay just a dream?
Well, a lot of things, obviously. But one of the most important factors is going to be innovation.
Innovation. Yeah, that's crucial in any tech company,
It's
especially fintech.
Especially fintech, because the landscape is constantly changing. New technologies are emerging all the time. Mobikwik needs to be able to keep up.
They can't just rest on their laurels.
Exactly. They need to be constantly pushing boundaries, developing new and compelling products, finding ways to differentiate themselves.
Otherwise, they'll get left behind.
Exactly. And beyond innovation, they also need to be able to execute.
Execution, as in actually making things happen.
Right. Because a great idea is only as good as its execution. Mobikwik can have the most brilliant strategy in the world, but if they can't execute it effectively...
It's worthless.
Exactly. So they need strong leadership, a talented workforce, and a robust operational infrastructure.
All the pieces have to be in place.
Yeah. They need to be able to streamline their operations, optimize workflows, make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so innovation,
Mm-hmm.
execution. What else?
Financial management.
Of course. Got to make sure the money's right.
Right. They're going public to raise capital.
Yeah.
But they need to use that capital wisely. Invest in the right areas. Make sure that revenue growth translates into actual profit.
Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. To investors, anyway.
Absolutely. They need to demonstrate a clear path to profitability, manage their expenses effectively, generate strong cash flow.
Otherwise, investors aren't going to be happy.
Nope. And then there's the competition.
Right. We talked about Paytm, PhonePeton.
Exactly. Those are some tough competitors. And new players are entering the market all the time. Mobikwik needs to be able to hold its own.
Find a way to stand out.
Exactly. And that's where partnerships come in.
Ah, right. Partnerships.
Because by collaborating with other players, Mobikwik can expand its reach, enhance its offerings, tap into new markets.
It's a win-win.
Potentially. But they need to choose their partners carefully. Make sure the goals are aligned. Make sure it's mutually beneficial.
Because the wrong partnership can really backfire.
Definitely. So managing competition, building strategic partnerships, those are going to be key for Mobikwik's success.
Okay, so we've got innovation, execution, financial management, competition, partnerships.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other crucial elements?
One more, and it might be the most important of all.
Hit me.
Leadership.
Yeah, leadership. Yeah, of course.
Because at the end of the day, it's the leaders who set the direction, who make the big decisions, who inspire the team.
So who are the leaders at Mobikwik?
Well, the company is led by its founders, Bipinpreet Singh and Upasana Rupkrishan Thakur.
The husband and wife team.
Right. And they've done a great job so far. I mean, they've taken Mobikwik from a simple digital wallet to what it is today.
That's true. But leading a private company is one thing. Leading a publicly traded company is a whole other ballgame.
It is. The stakes are higher, the scrutiny is more intense, the expectations are greater.
So what qualities are going to be essential for them to succeed in this new environment?
Well, first and foremost, they need a vision.
A vision.
Yeah. A clear and compelling vision for the future. Something that inspires their team, attracts investors, resonates with the market.
So it's not just about the here and now, it's about where they're going.
Exactly. And that vision needs to be ambitious, but also realistic.
Right. It can't be pie in the sky.
Nope. It needs to be grounded in reality.
Okay, so vision.
Communication, they need to be able to communicate that vision effectively to their team, to investors, to the public.
Yeah, communication is key.
It is. They need to be transparent, authentic, persuasive.
Because if people don't understand the vision...
They're not going to buy into it.
Exactly. Okay, so vision, communication.
Decision-making.
Being able to make the tough calls.
Right. Because not all decisions are going to be easy, but they need to be made. And they need to be made with conviction.
Based on what?
Based on a deep understanding of the business and a commitment to Mobikwik's long-term success.
So not just gut feelings.
No, informed decisions.
Okay, so vision, communication, decision-making, anything else?
Resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, because the journey of an entrepreneur, it's never smooth sailing. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be failures.
Got to be able to bounce back.
Exactly. They need to be able to learn from their mistakes and come back stronger.
Okay, so resilience, vision, communication, decision-making. That's a lot to ask of any leader.
It is, but that's the level we're talking about here.
Yeah, right. Leading a publicly traded company, it's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not. So, to sum it up, Mobikwik's success ultimately rests on the leadership of its founders.
Their ability to inspire, to execute, to overcome challenges.
To make those tough decisions.
Exactly. So investors need to carefully evaluate the leadership team, their track record, their vision, their capabilities.
Because at the end of the day, investing in a company is an act of faith.
Faith in the leadership.
Exactly. And in Mobikwik's case, investors need to have faith that Bipinpreet Singh and Upasana Ruprashan Thakur can lead the company to success.
We've covered a lot of ground today. Mobikwik's business model, the financials, their growth strategy, the competitive landscape, the risks.
The internal workings, the leadership.
It's been a real deep dive.
It has, and hopefully it's given our listeners a lot to think about.
That's the goal. Because ultimately, the decision of whether or not to invest in Mobikwik, it's a personal one.
It is. We've given you the information, the insights, the tools. Now it's up to you to do your own due diligence.
Weigh the risks and rewards.
And decide if Mobikwik is right for you.
Right. Because no investment is without risk.
Especially an IPO.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
do your research, ask the right questions, and make sure you're comfortable with the level of risk.
And as always, diversify your portfolio, invest only what you can afford to lose, and if you need help, don't be afraid to seek professional financial advice.
Solid advice. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive completely.
You know, we've talked about Mobikwik's business model, the financials, the industry, even their leadership. But there's this one piece that we often overlook.
What's that?
Company culture.
Ah, yeah. Company culture, it's like, it's the invisible force behind everything, right?
Exactly. It shapes how a company operates, how they make decisions, ultimately how successful they can be.
So what can we glean about Mobikwik's culture from all the stuff we've been reading? Their prospectus.
Well, one thing that jumps out at me is their emphasis on innovation. It's not just a buzzword with them, it seems to be a genuine value.
Yeah, we've seen that in their plans, haven't we? All those new initiatives they're working on.
Exactly, and they talk about it constantly in the prospectus. Their focus on new product development, leveraging technology, staying ahead of the curve.
So they're not afraid to try new things.
Nope. They seem to embrace experimentation, and even failure to a certain extent, as a learning experience, you know?
Yeah, that's important. In fintech, you can't afford to stand still.
Exactly. You snooze, you lose. Another thing that's clear from the prospectus is their focus on the customer.
Customer-centric approach.
Right. They're all about making the user experience seamless, personalized, and building those long-term relationships.
Which makes sense, right? In fintech, if your user experience isn't great,
Yeah.
people can easily switch to a competitor.
Totally. And Mobikwik gets that. They're investing in technology, data analytics, customer support, all the things that make for a good user experience.
Okay, so we've got a culture that values innovation, prioritizes the customer. What else? What's the secret sauce?
The ingredient that ties it all together, execution.
Walking the walk.
Exactly. And you can see this throughout their prospectus. They highlight their track record of launching new products, scaling their operations, achieving significant growth.
So it's not just talk, they've actually done it.
Right. And that culture of execution, it's going to be crucial now that they're going public.
Because investors are going to be watching.
Oh, yeah. They're going to want to see if Mobikwik can deliver on those promises.
So, to our listeners out there, when you're considering Mobikwik,
Don't just look at the numbers.
exactly, look at the culture. Do you believe they have what it takes to succeed?
That's a great question to ask yourself. And I think based on what we've seen, they seem to have a solid foundation.
Good culture, good foundation.
But of course, it's your money. Do your own research, weigh the risks, make the decision that feels right for you.
Always solid advice. Okay, so there you have it, our deep dive into Mobikwik. We've looked at their business, the financials, the competition, the risks, the leadership, even the company culture.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And hopefully we've given you a good understanding of this company and their upcoming IPO.
Enough to get you started, at least.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the world of fintech, it's constantly changing.
Never a dull moment.
So stay curious, stay informed, and who knows, maybe we'll see you on our next deep dive.
Until then.